Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back working on the Sharknose. Let's get started. Okay guys, so in the last video we started working on these shock mounts. So I got those made by Renegade. I sent a little sketch of what I wanted. I converted this to a piece of paper. This is just a mock-up of it. Converted it to a piece of paper. I sent that to Mark as a photograph with all the measurements on it. He sent back a sketch on his computer, and he laser cut these, or plasma cut them, or water jet cut. I don't know, whatever he did. He cut them out of steel for me, and had to modify them a little bit just because of the angle. This one had to be taller. This one had to be taller than this one, so I had to shorten these up in the front, or the back rather. I will gusset these across at some point, but just trying to get the design figured out to where the front suspension works, and it does. So that's a big achievement. I went ahead and put the floor in it. That's just a 50 thousandths aluminum sheet that I got Material Supply Shop. They had 4 foot by 4 foot sheets for like $3 a pound because these were offcuts or something like that. Or actually 2 foot by 4 foot sheets rather. So when we're sitting in this, we do need to move this bar back a little bit to give us room. But other than that, the cockpit is coming together pretty well. I've ordered my master cylinder and brake pedals and all that, so that'll go in one of the next steps. But first, we're going to turn our attention to the rear. We're going to install a rear axle, and I've already marked the frame about where the axle needs to go from our plan. So I got the tires sitting here. I'm going to mount the Renegade hubs that Mark made up for these particular hubs. So if you end up using these hubs, he does have this available, special order. Going to have a 42-inch axle because you have to have a longer axle. This will still be 39 inches at the outside of the tires, but it requires a 42-inch axle because these axle goes all the way through the hub. So it goes through the hub, secures on the outside. Okay, so also I wanted to mention I found this drawing. I think I got this off of the CycleKartClub.com. Somebody put this picture up. Super handy reference information for cockpit design, and this is laying out pretty close to that. I mean, it worked out that way. So I'm using this as a reference to kind of keep our, make it so it's comfortable and ergonomic inside the cockpit, because Italian cars are known for their comfort. I know this because I have that little tiny Fiat. So, that's a joke, guys. Okay, so let's get rolling. Okay, guys, so here's a pro tip. I use 5/16 bolts on most everything on the CycleKart. It seems to work pretty well for pretty much everything. Nice thing about that is you have one wrench and socket, half-inch wrench and socket for most of the assembly parts. It certainly makes the cart easier to work on. Also, when you go to the hardware store, you're going to need various size bolts. These happen to be 2.5 inch for these Renegade hubs. You'll need a 2.5 inch. Goes all the way through. You can see how it's bolted together on the other side. So there's washers on both sides and nylock nuts. I get the washers in bulk and the nuts in bulk. When you go to the hardware store, they have little bins full of nuts and bolts. Typically, these are like, I don't know, say they're 25 cents. You buy them by the box of 50 or box of 100, they're about half the price. So get a little separator bin like this and keep track of them. This is all in one package, and these 2 bins of washers were one package. So plenty to do the whole cart. Saves you a little bit of money having to go back and forth. So next time, I do have to go to the hardware store quite a bit to get the nuts and bolts I need. I have a bunch, but almost never the exact size I need. So anyway, these are 2.5 inch with washers on both sides and the nylocks for the hubs. So the hubs are pretty straightforward. In fact, let me just grab this. I'll show you essentially how this goes together. So like a baking show, there's the after. So there's this kind of a short end on the hub and a long end. The short end goes on the inside. Goes right inside that bearing where the bearing would go in the stock hub. Fits right inside there. And that's where it's important to get the 35 millimeter bearing, I believe it is, as opposed to a 37 millimeter. This is a little snug fit compared to the other one. Then they bolt through the other side. And so there's going to be a bearing on this side. Again, 35 millimeter bearing. And a 35 outside, I think, and then the inside is going to be your 3/4 inch for your axle hub. So I'll put the part number in the description for the bearings. Okay, so here's the wheels I got. So the XT250 Enduro from Yamaha 1980, and also I have some XT200s. So there's a difference in bearing sizes from the 250 to the 200. One's a 35 millimeter, one's a 37 millimeter. And go back and watch my video on how I put these wheels together. There'll be more information on there. Sorry, I don't remember all of it right now, but that'll get you started on it. So any rate, those hubs do fit in there, and I'll go ahead and bolt that one together now. Okay, I got our Renegade hubs installed on our Yamaha hubs and our wheels, and getting ready to install our bearings. So these are the Sousa. Here's the part number 1861. I got the Sousa bearing kit and the 42-inch axle from MFG Supply. You can get these off Amazon or a few other places as well. I think Mark even sells them at Renegade, but these are where I happen to get. Well, Mark sure sells these. I'm not sure about the 42-inch axle, but it comes with the hardware you need, and it comes with the nylock nuts to secure your hub, which it'll be secured here to the axle. So these are the weld bits to weld it to the frame, give you a mount. Since I'm not drilling holes in the frame, I will be using these. I'll be mounting these. Well, we'll see how I do that to mount that. So anyway, part of the process. When I'm doing this, I will mock it up with these little grub screws. But when I do the final assembly, these will not be used because these tend to gouge your axle. So I'll use locky collars to hold it all in place. So these won't be used. I'll just use it for mock-up for right now, just to keep things from sliding all over the place. But I'll remove these on final assembly because these do tend to spin, and then they gouge and mess up the axle, and it's hard to take the axle back out. So pro tip there. Okay, guys, and just in case you didn't know, Renegade CycleKarts for all your CycleKart parts. Mark and Julie sure help us out. I really appreciate them. Okay, guys, more to come. Okay, so here's basically how the assembly goes. It just the inner plate and the outer plate go around the bearing. So you get this is the inside of the bearing. Goes like that. That bolts in there. Pretty simple. Your grub screws outside so you can get to them. These are serviceable. See this little hole here? So they come pre-lubricated, but over time these are service items. So you will need to take this apart from time to time and shoot some grease in there. You want to kind of find some sort of grease that's got propellant with a little small nozzle. I think I've used lithium grease before. There's a couple different little holes you can push it into, and that re-lubricates this whole thing. This little dust cover may or may not come out if I'm never taking one apart, but anyway, that's how I've lubricated it in the past. It makes them spin a little freer. So that's just a pro tip for you. Because once you put these in here, these are adjustable. This whole thing can rock around in here to account for, things not being square. So this will mount your axle, it'll kind of square it all up. So I'm leaving it sort of loose for right now. You can see it kind of rock around in there. Rock around in there like that. See? So that's how it's designed. Once you tighten these bolts up, that'll solidify and hold it in place. Keep your axle from rolling around or moving. So, all right. Okay, so here's what I've done so far this morning. I welded some 1x2 little spacers on here to get my axles bearings where they need to be in relation to the ground and the wheels. And I moved this brace behind the seat back 4 inches rather, to give me more room in the cockpit. It's a little bit tight in there, so we moved that back. We will be doing some cross bracing here and there. I will be dropping this bar down a little bit to get the body line right. Maybe pinching it a little bit at the back. And of course, these are going to get cut off where the body ends. But yeah, making progress on this build so far. Having the front end on really makes it easy to get everything lined up properly. Okie dokie. Okay, so I've mocked up the back end supports. I've also notched the frame here to get this back end to drop down. You see how that's angled down to follow the body lines. To get this, we want this to be 3 inches. There's my my guide. 3 inches below the top of the tire to the top of the body here, or close to that. So that's getting there. So I've got a 12-inch support here, 12-inch support on the other side, which I'll have to bring over and pull down. So get that to line up. And then I'll get the back end, kind of the narrow bit of the back end. And after that's done, we'll notch these to bring these together to get them narrower at the rear. The chassis should end right about here at that mark. So, all right, making some good progress here. Starting to look like a car. Okay, so I'm back working on this, and I've got the motor plate just tacked in place right now. And I'm working on clearancing some issues on the TAV. So my sprocket potentially could interfere here, and the chain will definitely interfere here. I've already ground off two little bosses off the back of this thing. So the interfering, this one interfered with the chassis, and well, let's see which one was it. It was yeah, this one interfered with the motor. It was touching the right here on the motor. It was just interfering there. So clearance, that you don't need this because we're not running the dust cover. This is the dust cover mount. And then down here it was interfering at the frame. So anyway, clearance those both off of there. And now I'm going to clearance the backside to clear for the chain and also for the sprocket, because if the motor's fully forward, the sprocket bolts are interfering right there. So we'll get this thing trimmed up. Okay, so I took my angle grinder, cut a bunch of little chunks out of it, and then the flapper disc, just smooth it all down. That looks pretty good. Anywho, nobody's going to see that. It's going to be underneath the motor cover, but lots of aluminum grindings on the ground. So just about ready to put that baby inside. Okay, so I kept the clutch part off of here so to show you how this chain follows through here. So I cleared this area here, clearanced it, and then this is with the engine all the way back toward the axle. On the back side, you can see where I've clearanced the TAV right here. So as it spins, those bolts will clear. And of course, if I pull the motor, you know, it's all the way forward. See on the adjustments here. So that's where I'm going to set my chain for the ideal spot. Just you want the shortest chain possible, in my opinion. But then as the chain stretches, you'll have room to move back and clearance the this way that doesn't, because the seat's going to be up here somewhere. So we don't want the motor hitting the seat. And yeah, I think that'll work. So next up is get the chain adjusted to size. And this is also a good time to go ahead and align your sprockets, because you can see them really easy with this clutch assembly out of the way. When the clutch is in here, it makes it really hard to eyeball your sprocket alignment. So what you would do is once your motor is in place, and you secure this to your axle with locking collars, so that way it doesn't keep walking back and forth. Okay, so making some good progress. Next up is to break that chain and get it to size. So this is the chain I'm using. It's an RLV Extreme Gold Performance. It's a racing chain. These aren't terribly expensive. We got this on Amazon. It's nice. It does come with some installation instructions. Most other chains don't. So if you've never done a chain before, read these instructions. They're actually very helpful as far as installing your master links and things like that. Something that's not exactly intuitive. There's a correct direction and a wrong direction. And this is the chain breaker, so you will need one of these. You can get these pretty much anywhere on go-kart sites or maybe even Amazon. Basically, it holds the chain, and you twist this rod and it pushes the link out. So pretty simple. So next up, I'm going to measure the length of this. I can't really do it holding the camera, so I'm going to pull the chain around, find where that link needs to be, and I might give one more link. There's a lot of space here to work with, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so this is your new master link. This is the removable bit. So what you want to do is cut this chain so that the link ends up connecting there. So figure out where you want to do it. If either this one, to cut this the gold part out of there. I think that's where I'll go. I might go one more. I might go one more and see where we go. That might be fine. We'll do this one here. Give us a little adjustment on the motor. Okay, got the chain broke and the pin out. I did have to put it in the vise and pull it the rest of the way out, kind of using a screwdriver to pry it out. This little push rod in there isn't quite long enough to push it all the way out, so you know, I need to give it a little extra help. So I've got it on the motor, and this is the keyway here, or rather the master link. Excuse me, not keyway. And you have to put your little locking key on there, which is this piece. And you want the round part of the key of that to be facing the direction of travel. So this is going to spin this way, right? So it's going to, motor wheels are going to spin this direction going forward. So you want that round part facing forward. If the idea is if it centrifugal force throws it off, it'll actually throw it into place, not throw it off. So lots of guys lose their master links. I think this might be why they put them on this direction. And the centrifugal force of the spinning of this, when it spins up to 3,500 or 4,000 RPMs, is this thing's spinning a lot faster than that, right? So it potentially could throw this off, or at least that's the idea. So the instructions say put it this direction. I've always done it this way. I've never once lost a chain, so I don't know if that means anything or not, but we'll pop that on there with a pair of pliers and get this thing lined up. And there you go, that's installed. So next up, we'll put this back together, and yeah, this thing's coming together. That's all established, so I think we're doing pretty good. What I might do next is put some supports under here for this frame rail. I'm not real happy with this long bars back here. I might support it down here underneath the axle, just to give it a little more support. Well, I'll wait to do that until I've got my brake assembly in place. But you know, I think I might call that the end of this video. Made some pretty good progress. The back end's pretty well tightened up and shaping up really nicely. And got the pedals in it. Pretty happy with that. Yeah, so this is moving along pretty good. So I think we'll call that the end of this frame video number 2 on the Sharknose Ferrari. Thanks for following along, guys. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And most of all, get out in the garage and build something cool. Thanks for watching.